The very essence of the mental game is this. The only reason an event matters is because we make it matter.
Welcome to the Mullins Farrier Podcast, where I will sit down and converse with the superstars, the overachievers, the masters of our craft. Each episode will be a deep dive into their personal philosophies, their habits, the tools they use, and the secrets to not only their success, but overcoming failure as well.
First, find somebody you can mimic, then find somebody you can stand, and then try to focus on one style until you master that style.
So if you say I can't do something, well, you're absolutely right. But if you say you're going to, you're absolutely right with that too.
People say that you shouldn't define yourself by your work. That is not true.
You know what Dave Farley does when he's, lucky enough to be at the World Equestrian Games? I'm watching other people work.
Yeah.
I don't think we do that enough.
This podcast is for all of you out there who share my passion for the job and the desire to always improve. These interviews will put you in touch with the inner workings of the role models we all want to emulate. So let's get to it.
There's only so many hours in a day, and it's a matter of what you do with them.
Welcome, everyone. I've got a few shopkeeping items to get through here. Lots of stuff coming up, including the British Farriers and Blacksmiths Association Focus for 2022. I'm sure you heard me mention in a previous episode that I will be attending this year's events, and that is at Stoneleigh Park in Warwickshire, where on the 28th and 29th of October, the International Team Horseshoeing Competition will take place. And then on Sunday the 30th, they are hosting the International Bladesmithing Competition. My friend and fellow podcaster Danny Bennett will be working alongside me as we interview many of the world-class clinicians who will be attending and speaking at this event. Our goal is to create as much content as we can during those few days to keep you apprised as to what's going on in the world of farriery to date. You can learn many of the details about this event if you go online to forgeandfarrier.co.uk and look under Focus. Hope to see you there. Another exciting event coming up is the Ontario Farriers Association's annual convention and competition, this year being held September 23rd to the 25th in Halton Hills, Ontario. The headlining clinician and judge is Stephen Bean, flying all the way across the pond to join us. Along with Stephen, there are several other great clinicians and lecturers who will be presenting at this event. You can look for more details online at ontariofarriers.ca. And finally, the Western States Farriers Association is hosting their annual Southern California Classic from October the 6th to the 8th. The judge and clinician for this event will be none other than Chris Madrid, CJF. Register yourself soon, as the sign-up deadline for this event is September 30th, and September is disappearing quickly. Okay, today I'm speaking with Sam Durham, CJF, DipWCF. Sam was up here in the Great White North along with Hank Chisholm to be a clinician for the first ever pre-cert hosted in Ontario. As I mentioned in the intro to Hank's interview, it was a late night after 2 solid days of teaching for the two gentlemen, and they had an early morning ahead of them. But despite all this, they still pressed on and did their respective interviews. As with Hank, Sam was informative and insightful. Our discussion about the suspensory apparatus of the distal phalanx was especially enlightening for me. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. And now I'm sitting in that same seedy hotel room with Sam Durham. Now, you hail all the way from California. Whereabouts?
A town called Petaluma in Northern California.
Okay, gotcha.
It's about a half hour above San Francisco.
Oh, hence why Jordan wants to take you to Alcatraz. It's
Exactly.
Just a small road trip for
Yep,
you.
Yeah. Yeah. She wanted to know if I'd ever been to Alcatraz, and I said, no, And she's, why not? And I was like, because I live there. So why would,
Yeah.
I'm busy working.
Yeah.
So I live there. I got to work all the time. So she's like, I got to take you to Alcatraz. So
There we go.
one of these days when she comes, there you go. We might leave her in a cell when we get there.
It might be a good idea. They're not going to want her there, but
She'll get out. It's okay.
oh, okay. Yeah. So you are also here in Canada helping teach the pre-cert course for some aspiring candidates. And how did you feel after the couple days that you were here?
Relieved, I guess would be the word, because everybody took what we were teaching them and applied it and worked hard at getting better at it and showed progress the entire time. They all took in what we had to say. So I was relieved to have that happen for them because they were able to improve throughout the 2 days from where we met them.
Yeah. And what inspired you to get into this position in the first place? As
Pure
an
insanity.
instructor?
Yeah.
Pure insanity?
Yeah, basically. No, for the most part, I like teaching. I've taught somewhere around 35 people over my career.
Oh, wow.
So from that experience, I don't like to have everybody in my truck. I like my own time to drive myself home or to work because I might stop or I might do a few different things. So this makes it so that I can teach people and still be able to contribute to betterment of our trade.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And this isn't the first time for you in Canada. I know it was Hank's first time, right?
First time in Eastern Canada, but Western Canada, I spent many years going back and forth.
We were having this conversation just before the interview. You visited Mr. Marshall quite often.
Yes, correct. He took pity on me and helped me learn better and become a better farrier because I had cute kids.
So you had to bring your kids with you too.
So I kept bringing my kids every time I'd go up there because we travel as a family anyway.
Oh,
so
okay.
my wife and kids would go with me until they had to go to school. So I would take them along. So he felt bad for the kids. They had such a dumb father. So he started teaching us and helping us a lot and helped us an immense amount. Yeah.
Cool. Now, what type of horses do you work on in your particular area?
I've started a larger volume of dressage horses, but it's hunter jumpers, trail horses, a lot of people's backyard pets,
Okay.
that sort of stuff. School horses. I work for therapeutic programs and try to take care of as many of those types of horses as possible.
Okay. And did I hear you have a multi-farrier practice?
Correct.
Okay. How did you set that up? Because this has always been the great mystery to me, how to make that work.
I've attempted to be part of a few, and it didn't work because it was too strict. The regimen was too strict,
Okay.
or the payment schedule was too strict, or it didn't work out for me personally. So from those experiences, I chose to run it more in a loose-knit ranch style. So what that means is the company is the ranch, and we're all a bunch of kids that work for the ranch, and our dad is the owner of it, and so we don't tell dad everything about what goes on. So if we need to take the truck to town, and he doesn't need to know about it, kind of thing. So
Right.
so there's some freedoms that are allowed in the corporation that we run. So if you need to run to town, or you need to take the truck home, or you need to go trim that horse for wherever because you missed it last week and you didn't tell me,
Right.
just go take care of it,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
And I try to make the pay reflective to that. So everybody gets paid as well as we can pay each other. The company pays me just like they pay any employee.
Okay. So there are so many aspects of it that seem like they'd be a huge difficulty to sort of overcome.
I identify those things for myself, what I can't do or what I don't do well or what I avoid. And so far I have an accountant company take care of all the taxes and the paperwork. I have a bookkeeper that makes sure that the accountant gets all the right information.
Right.
And now I have a business manager that makes sure everyone gets invoiced
Okay.
because I'm behind on all of those. And so then that allows me to run the schedule and keep track of the horses' livelihoods and show schedules, whatever we have to take care of.
Okay.
I do that part because I'm good at it.
Right. Okay. And how did you find people? Because what often happens is if you find somebody to work for you, they're usually ambitious, and then that ambition takes them into their own business, and then you kind of lose them.
And I expect that to happen with everyone that comes in. So I'm not surprised when or if that happens.
Okay.
And I don't discourage them from running their own business if that's what they want to do. But I also want to make sure that they know in this company that they're well cared for, they're well thought of, they come before me.
Mm-hmm.
Most situations, I take care of them as best as I can. I want them to understand that I have a great responsibility to them so that they are felt like they're wanted to be part of the group.
Okay.
So we work a lot together. We train a lot together. I send Mike as the main guy right now. And I recognize I can't teach everything because I've been to many clinics and many different mentors. So I try to send Mike out to as many people as I possibly can to get him to work with them as well.
Okay.
And then I cover his work while he's gone.
Okay. Gotcha. So Mike would go in a completely separate vehicle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we run 2 trucks no matter what.
okay.
Our normal day is we'll meet at the same barn. We'll shoe whatever's scheduled there. And then whatever needs fixing or repaired or any extra horses or extra work, we split apart and go take care of it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So on pretty much every day you're working together, but
As much as we can, yeah.
okay.
Unless I'm traveling doing one of these things,
Right.
right? So now Mike's back there covering for me.
Okay. And then how does it work with the clientele? Because that's another huge hurdle.
Seemingly we had to grow a new clientele.
Okay.
So some of the clientele I started with that were game for it, we still have, but some of the clientele didn't recognize that the workers were getting better and were there longer and had certifications and journeyman certifications and they're actually accredited farriers. They're not just my helpers
Mm-hmm.
that just happened along one day and they've only been there a week.
Yeah.
They've actually been at their barn for the last 3 or 4 years shoeing their horses,
Right. Yeah.
not just pulling and finishing for that long, because they progressed in their knowledge and skill
Right.
and they just didn't realize it. So some of those went away because they all of a sudden see John working on their horse in a full capacity and they didn't understand that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a bad thing by not explaining it to that person well enough, to that client.
Okay.
We also get hired a lot, so we just change clientele.
Right.
And so when I change clientele, it's Mike and I, or Mike and John and I, or Josh, or whoever we have with us. He's a qualified farrier. You're hiring him too.
Mm-hmm.
I turned it into that language.
Right.
So that's my initial conversation with clients.
Right.
And I'm not wanting to shoot as many, so I'm trying to make it so that they see Mike first,
Right.
or they see Mike and I. Whoever's going out there has my full confidence
Okay.
because they've been with me for a long time.
Right.
And I've trained them and I've sent them out to quality people to train as well.
Right.
And I've used the certification program system to ensure that those qualifications were right.
Right. And so what does the onboarding process kind of look like for the people working for you? Like, do they work with you as an apprentice, I'm assuming, for a period of time? And
I try now through all this trial and error.
yeah.
Now I try to make sure that they're either a CF or well on their way to being a CF
Okay.
before we have much of a conversation about working
Right. Okay.
or employment, because they gotta have some knowledge, they gotta have some skill, because I need them to work right away
yes.
without a lot of
Oversight.
oversight. Exactly. And they have to know that they're going to progress,
Mm-hmm.
right? Pay also, they get paid the more they progress.
Mm-hmm. Like based on
Right. So based on
certifications and
certification, you get paid more. Based on all those things, you get paid more per horse.
right. Okay. And then I guess the other setback that I've heard from some people is that when that person does leave to start their own business, how do you approach the fact that some clientele might be tempted to go that way too?
I factored that into the number thing just as a total wash. If I lose those horses, I lose those horses. I'll go into that full, no blinders on at all. I know that's going to happen.
Okay.
So shoeing horses for 32 years, I've built 6 or 7 different practices. So I know I can shoe what I need to do to make my money for my day. So, and I make sure the company isn't leveraged so badly that we need all of those horses. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So there's a safety net built into that ideal of someone going away or losing clientele over it.
Okay. And those other practices that you started, is this a new area for you to be in?
I've been in this area of California for 18 years.
Okay. So not new.
It's not new, but within it, the clientele has changed several times.
Okay. And you had tried, you said, with other practices. Now, was this in sort of the beginning, like other multi-farrier practices?
No, I always hated scheduling. I always hated all these aspects of business, so I wanted somebody else to run it.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to shoe horses.
Yeah.
So that's all the thing I was good at.
Right.
I'd shoot 10, 12, 14 head of horses in a day just to stay busy and shoe horses.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But I didn't want to schedule the next day, or I didn't want to do invoices. So I wanted to work for somebody else.
Right.
So that would take care of that. Turns out you can't trust everybody with all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start doing 10, 12, 14 head of horses, that's $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 in a quarter. That's a lot of money for people to allocate to themselves or different parts of, instead of paying you your fair share or whatever.
Yeah.
So it just never worked. It would work for a little while. I would hold up my end, and then I would feel like the other end didn't hold up their part of the bargain.
Right. Now, with starting your own, what was the inspiration to actually do that? Because I imagine now you've put the right people in place, but a lot of that stuff are things that you don't want to do yourself. And then you kind of took on a little more responsibility.
Because I hired those other people, that took a lot of stress and worry off of other aspects. So it freed up a whole bunch of energy to be able to manage the schedule and manage the other things. Because ultimately, I'm the head figure of the company, so I need to talk to all those people anyway.
Right.
So I might as well talk to them while I'm scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
Any concerns, any warrant, anything. How's Brownie doing? How's Gypsy doing? How's things?
Yeah.
How's the kids? How's the wife? How's the family? All that sort of stuff is good PR for the business, and it's genuine from me because I like all the people I work for.
Right.
So I don't want to change this practice. I like all the people that are there.
Right.
I appreciate them. They appreciate me. They trust me. I like that part. I feel good now about what I practice.
Yeah. I've reached that same point myself where you're working for people you like, and you just don't want that to change.
We even talk about price range. The whole economy's changing, right? So you're talking about price hikes, and it's like, I like these people. I like where we're at. Sometimes you get a little bit worried about raising your prices.
Yeah. Yep.
So a percentage of my people are like, why haven't you raised your price? I'm worried about you. Why haven't you raised your price?
Right.
You need to do that. I need you to keep coming to my barn. I can't have you be broke.
Mm-hmm.
You need to raise your price. So those are the people I work for. They care about me just as much as I care about them.
Exactly. Yep. Which isn't easy to find.
No,
It
honest. Isn't.
Yeah.
And they care about my employees same way. All of us now have a good relationship. They all know each other. They all have spent time with one another. They know we all care about those horses. We use horsemanship skills. We incorporate everything that you can about running a good service business.
Mm-hmm. That's really neat. So now if you have a third person, do you have a third
No.
person? Oh, okay. Would you ever onboard a third person?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, we're looking.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, has your area been the same as everywhere else where horses have come out of the woodwork?
There's like 9,000 horses to shoe and 2 people to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not enough farriers anywhere to do them? Yeah.
Right. Yes, it is. I think also they're looking, those people now that are coming to the woodworks, they're realizing not all farriers are made the same.
Yes. Right.
They're Googling farriery. They're understanding that CFs and CJFs starting to mean something. I'm getting requests or questions about that more often than I've ever had it before.
Oh, really? Okay.
So they're asking about certification. They're asking about who is involved with that.
Yeah.
I've always put it in my practice as a conversation, but new people are calling me and asking.
That's amazing.
Yeah. AFA is doing a good job of getting out and getting in the public.
Yeah. Right.
Onto the internet, at least, and they're providing a good quality practitioner.
Right. Yeah. Now, you were also described to me as an anatomy guru.
Oh, God. Really? Yeah, I'm a bit of a nerd.
Okay. Yep.
I only went through 8th grade and had to go to work or chose different lifestyles throughout the time. So when I found horseshoeing, I just wanted to know everything about all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with horses. I grew up riding dressage. I grew up all around horses, and I just always wanted to know everything about it. We ran a big horse farm, and when I was a little boy, the vets taught me how to give injections. And pretty soon when I was big enough, they taught me how to do sutures and first aid for horses. And so I just kept being taught stuff because we needed to be able for me to do it so we didn't have to pay the vet to do it. Because, this farm didn't have a high margin of profit. So
right.
Through that experience with horses, of a lifetime with horses, I really have learned to love and appreciate horses. So as becoming a farrier, you recognize that a lot of farriery is built on myths or theories that are unproven.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to understand whether you can follow that theory or work within that realm of that mystery is to understand what the anatomy and the structure and how it's made, how it's built, how it works, and how you can expect to treat it.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it's broken, you need to know how to treat it. So you need to know what's broken, all the bits and pieces of it. So you can't know all that stuff until you know the anatomy.
Yeah.
And so once I started learning anatomy and learning Latin, I figured out that I understand Latin. I'm a little dyslexic. So when someone's talking in that Latin form, it doesn't happen.
Okay.
So when I use Latin, it doesn't happen. So I really like that.
Right.
I'm drawn to it. So I study the crap out of anatomy all the time. I want to know more about it all the time.
What are some of the main sources you have found for studying anatomy? Like really good resources?
The good resources, Denois books are the gold standard for MRI and radiographic and then anatomical structure. But all of them are great images, great text, great bits and pieces. For the bigger part, Simon Curtis's books,
Mm-hmm.
all of them are fantastic. I've read them all. I have a library that probably has 70 or 80 books in it that I've collected over the while, and I open those when I come up with a pathology problem, that something like you asked Hank about is who would you call?
Mm-hmm.
I open those books and I study all of the pathologies and all the treatment plans from Simon Curtis to Chris Coles to, I use an Adams book, not as much. An old Rooney book I have from the 70s.
Oh, yeah?
It's fantastic. I go to that a lot. That particular book is really good about treatment plans. What's the pathology? What's wrong? And then you can build a treatment plan around it.
Mm-hmm.
I said Chris Coles wrote a book, another UK guy. Yeah, that's the other one. Chris Pollitt would be a major contributor now to what I'm studying about the study of the foot and down to the microscopic levels, down to the cellular levels.
Right.
That's where I'm at now, is studying that.
Okay.
So Chris Pollitt is probably my main go-to person now for just studying the hoof structure and how it works and how it attaches things and how that bone is held up in that hoof capsule.
Right.
For 30 years, I didn't know that. It's not in any horseshoeing texts.
Mm-hmm.
It just says lamina.
Yeah.
But when you start doing dissections, you pull that apart and you go, well, that ain't just lamina there. There's no way just lamina can do that.
Yeah.
So there's actually a structure in it that's the suspensory apparatus, the distal phalanx. And Dr. Pollitt writes about that in his book, in his first book, and then he alludes to it in greater detail in his second book, The Illustration of the Horse's Foot or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So Fran Jurga has it on her website.
Yep.
That's the other source, is Fran Jurga's hoof research or hoof search.
Mm-hmm.
I've been subscribing to that, so I don't know how long now, but I'm probably a long-term subscriber. Because the research papers often reference a lot of things that Pollitt has going on, or Van Apps has going on, or you can reference back to Curtis's books. And now I'm also starting to use Dr. Caldwell's, all of his audio references.
Oh, okay.
So now he's got a lot more audio stuff, so I can put it on the truck and drive and listen to him talk about this whatever structure.
Right.
Or whoever he's got that's got that section I want to read about or hear about. Because now I can hear it and visualize it while I'm driving down the road.
Yeah. The whole audio format has really been a big thing for us farriers who spend so much time in our vehicles.
Yeah. Caldwell does a good job sticking to the structure. Some audio books refer to the book. The audio portions refer to the book, so you have to have the book in front of you. So when you're driving down the road,
yeah, not as
yeah,
good,
you crash. So I like the audio portion because it gives me a chance to visualize. So I've been starting using that a little bit more.
Okay. In Chris Pollitt's, in his book, does he describe, because I know it was something that Simon Curtis, do you have his newest, The Hoof of the Horse book?
We're like peas and carrots, Simon and I. So it's just like,
I
have all of his books and they're signed. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah. The one thing I found interesting is in that book, he describes how we still don't 100% know how, with the lamina attached, how that ratchets or whatever method helps it to keep continually growing down as it's being created at the top.
So the first person I met was Dr. Pollitt, that actually has a reasonable theory about it.
Oh, okay.
He's also the first one the one that I know for sure that has researched to an nth degree of his ability how that hoof functions.
Okay.
If you don't know how it functions, you can't know how the disease affects it. So
Yes.
his goal is to find out the cause of laminitis, the ticker, the one that kicks the animal over the edge.
Right.
But if you don't know how all of the structure works in normal, you will never figure out how it works with the pathology.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And how to get it back. So he spent most of his career, as near as I can tell, learning how the foot works.
Right. Which is pretty amazing that we spend so much time working on them. And
we still don't know how that hard structure migrates over that soft structure while holding on to another hard structure and exudes out the bottom as a wear plate. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super fascinating to me. So
No kidding.
learning as much about it as possible. That's why I'm nerdy about it.
That's your thing. Yeah.
Right. Right. So yeah, you get me on that subject like you have now.
Yeah.
I talk.
Hank's saying he wants to sleep at some point tonight, but I don't know.
Paying by the hour.
Yeah.
Keep quiet. Just another 20. Put another 20 in the thing.
He doesn't snore, right?
No. If he does, I don't know about it. I can't hear.
That is the benefit of being a farrier. One thing I've noticed with a lot of the research, and you seem to be somebody who's following that a lot.
I try.
Yeah.
I'm a lay person in it, but I try.
It's been really interesting to read through the American Farriers Journal and is it Dr. Jenny Hagen?
She's amazing.
And I've been really intrigued by the different studies that she's run to kind of prove or disprove.
So there's a researcher that has come through our trade, gotten a skill set that's really high, and then took that information and went to research and started researching.
Okay, I didn't know her backstory.
I feel like you can trust her information because she's been tested as a farrier.
Right.
In the traditional sense.
Yeah.
Right. So she's done journeyman. She's done all of those factors. So we know she knows what you and I know about how to run that test, how to run a program. So she's seen enough, in my opinion. You can trust a lot of her opinions about the research outcomes.
Right. One of the things that kind of threw me, some of it seems to completely disprove.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard to take, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But you just got to be a grown up and say, "Oh, I'll be darned."
Well, yeah, and that's
Right?
research,
Okay.
right?
It's research.
That's science.
And if it's proven enough and it's trusted science and it can turn into a principle, there's no reason not to trust it.
Yes, but I do find there are a lot of folks in our trade who hate that kind of aspect about it.
Yeah.
They learned a certain
How
thing.
can that be? Because it worked for me and Jimmy John
Exactly.
that taught me. It
Yeah.
worked for him. And how can that be? It can't be that way.
Yeah.
But if you watch the videos, if you listen to the lectures, if you read the studies, there's a reasonable reason why the study disproves some old wives' tale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you're seeing it. You're seeing the result. Most research projects don't just do one study and listen to one person's opinion. They do multiple studies on multiple animals in multiple situations before they come up with a conclusion.
Yes.
Beware of that research that doesn't, or that's funded by other products
Exactly.
to prove their product's correctness.
Yep. And I find those waters are hard to navigate because some things I'll read or hear from people, and we don't want to admit that whatever it is we've been doing for the past 10 years is wrong.
You don't have to admit it. You just have to realize there's another way to do it and
Mhm.
start doing it that way.
Right.
Right. The only constant is change.
Yeah.
So change with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Adapt with it. I'm an old guy and I know how to run a cell phone. I know how to text now. I resisted all that stuff, but my kids brought me through all of it.
And you should see his TikTok channel.
Yeah. TikTok channel. Right. Yeah. I'm on Facebook. That's about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My new tech though goes to the riding a one wheel board,
Ooh.
like an electric hoverboard. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
No, it's not.
Well, with the research, with the sources that you just named, even Fran, is that where you get most of your sort of current stuff, or do you have other resources that you are following?
I've been pretty well focused on what Pollitt has written and trying to wrap my brains around the suspensory apparatus of distal phalanx and trying to work out a theory, because it's not proven, of how it works and how I can manipulate it to work for me.
Right.
and then relate it to the rest of it. But my mind isn't wrapped around that completely yet.
Mm-hmm.
I keep identifying structures. I keep identifying landmarks on the feet that are guiding me, but I'm still using Pollitt's references. Very few others, really.
Okay. And from those references, how do you think it has changed the way you approach shoeing or trimming in your day-to-day work?
Maybe a story would work for that. But over the years, I brought clinicians to me because I had kids and didn't want to travel. So I bring clinicians to me, to teach me. But I also help them teach the community.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I had Dr. Caldwell, and we were sitting on a chair side by each, and they led this horse around, and he leans over to me and he tells me everything that he sees about the horse, all from just structures that he observed and how it moved. That inspired me. And so now when I'm looking at feet, I feel like I can see some of the stuff he was talking about because I'm recognizing that structure being bent or misshapen, or the load that's going onto it misshapen, and then relate that to the SADP, how it's being strained or worked, or how I can relieve the pressure on it to equalize that.
Okay.
Right. To match the pathology that the animal has or the postural adaptation that the animal has.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Is that complete enough?
It's like all things farriery. You don't know to look for it or even what you're seeing until somebody else kind of
we
points
talked
it
about
out
it
to you.
today in the lectures about shoeing a foot and making it a habit to look, because we don't observe and assess the horse. We pick up the foot automatic. We pick up the foot and start shoeing the foot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we make a shoe for the foot, but there's a horse standing on that foot. Right.
Yeah.
And in this test, you have to make sure angle is done. You have to make sure balance is done. You have to make sure the right length of foot is cut off. You have to make sure all these things are done. And if you follow that process, or as I teach that process, as you follow it, as you learn to follow it, you learn to observe. So as you stand up and look at AP, you also see that there's a wave in the foot. There's a flare in the foot. There's a bend in the foot. You start to see more structures in the foot the more you take time to observe.
Mm-hmm.
From my aspect, when you start understanding the orientation of the bone inside the hoof capsule and how it's held to one another, you can start to see where it's strained and where it's compressed and where it's being damaged and where it's normal.
Right. And do you find, because you also mentioned Denois, but that was more on the anatomy side, his concepts of flotation, we discussed it with Hank, but even in the proper substrates, are you a believer in that sort of theory now?
I'm a user in some of it.
Okay.
But I've also listened to Denois speak.
Yeah.
And one of the first early things that he'll tell you is that he did not make these things. He did not design these things. These are not his creation.
Right.
They're actually 600 to 800-year-old farrier history sorts of things. Farriers were using these things for hundreds of years before Denois came along.
Okay.
He's perfecting how to use them in a rehabilitation system.
Yes. Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it has nothing to do with shoeing the horse this way. It has to do with fixing or helping the horse rehab to get better back to the sport faster.
Mm-hmm.
So that's his lecture. That's his early in his talk. That's what he'll talk about.
Right.
To explain, he's only trying to use what has already been done, use it better.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So he puts the anatomy behind it, the information about the anatomy, and the treatment plan around it.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about Denois, but his wife is also an anatomist and a rehab specialist.
Okay.
And she has a smaller book written, and it's actually, if you're rehabbing horses, you should own that book. It has all kinds of treatment plans for different injuries and different stuff.
Okay.
All right.
You mean as a farrier?
Especially as a farrier, but if you're working in a rehab situation, you're doing yourself a disservice by not reading that book.
Okay.
Because the structure and the timelines and everything else are exactly a lot like what vets will give you anyway. But if you understand it, you can be the leader in that team discussion about how things have to change. Because we all know horses get stuck in a bar shoe. It comes to you in a bar shoe and they don't know why it's in a bar shoe.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Now Brownie's 11 and he's been in a bar shoe for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell happened to Brownie 10 years ago that has to keep in a bar shoe?
Yeah.
That's a normal shoe for a 3 shoeing cycle, and you remove it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been in there for 11 years.
Now
or
they're
whatever,
afraid to take it off. Yeah.
Because everybody's afraid to take it off. Because The knowledge isn't there. So if you get some of that knowledge that's in some of those books I discussed, you'll be able to have a conversation with a vet and say, hey, look, Brownie doesn't need to have a bar shoe anymore. If time has gone by this long, that injury's healed.
Mm-hmm.
You might have started some new ones.
Right. Yeah. My library is definitely not 80 books full, so I've got a lot more purchasing to do.
My oldest son, Tanner, he's like, when you pass away or whatever, well, you just sell the books, man. We're good to go. You don't need to own anything.
That's
Just
your
sell the
nest egg
books.
right
That's the
there.
nest egg.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, kid, I don't have any money in the bank, but I got a whole bunch of books. All right.
Yep.
I have a few old ones. I'm still in search of one. It's a French book that's been translated to English, and it's 5x6 square, and it's red covered, and it's only about 50 pages. So it's a real small book. It's like a booklet, but it talks about the frog. In the middle of that book, it talks about the frog and how a frog should be treated and what a frog does. And it's from 1730 or something, 1745. So I read it as an apprentice. My first apprenticeship with Fred Starr, I worked for him for 11 or 13 months. And he had a library like mine.
Okay. Yep.
I also got married and started a family, so I moved away. But during that time with Fred, I got a chance to open his library. His library was open to me all the time, so I could sit and read. And so I found that little red booklet and started reading it right about the end of my apprenticeship. So
Okay.
I never got to finish it, and I never got to figure out what exactly that book was to find it anywhere else on the planet. Can't remember my own name sometimes, but I can remember stuff like that 35 years ago, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the things that you've read in the older books that you find pertinent for what you do today?
When I was studying for the associate test in 09, the bearing surface shoes you were talking about earlier, Denwall was talking about it.
Yep.
I was reading about the use of those in books from 1700 to learn about describing how to use it so that I could sound really smart in front of the examiners from the UK. They weren't impressed. I sure learned a lot.
Yeah.
About myself and about the structure and about the journey of being better with more knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I age, I'm not as good a forger and competitor. I still compete. In the open, but I bring up the rear more often than anything else, but that's okay with me. But I want to know more about it, right? So I can talk about it and teach it and share that knowledge and try to raise the Americas, both of them, Canada, the continent.
Yeah.
So anybody that wants to listen to me, I want to raise their awareness of more about the structure and more about what you can do with the structure and how to mitigate lamenesses and pathologies with all varying styles of shoes and mechanisms.
Right. Yeah. And you had mentioned even at dinner that you teach full dissections as well, right?
No, I don't teach them. I host them.
You host them. Okay.
I find much
Gotcha.
more smart people than me to do the talking.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right. We used Matt Durham. He's a DVM out of California. He was no relation. He's Irish.
I was
I'm
just going to
Scottish.
ask. Yeah.
We're all in the horse industry. His father's a horse trainer. He's a vet, and I'm a horseshoer. So we all talk about getting together and doing a really cool Durham event, lecture, train your horse, doctor your horse, and shoe it. Be a good time.
Yeah.
And then Cody Gregory has been traveling around doing a great job with the whole horse dissection. So
Yeah.
and I haven't used Cody. I knew Cody in 09 during that time training with those guys, with Chris and Cody. I know that they know a lot about it and I can trust their information. We just never had a chance to get together and do another whole horse dissection in California.
Right. Well, that'd be a cool event too.
And after hosting them, I would rather go to them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A lot of work
A lot of
behind the
work.
scenes.
Behind the scenes, it's a lot of work. There's a whole other half of a horse. You got to take the meat off and separate the bones. And the goal for me was to have a skeleton at the end. So I had to debride the rest of the animal
Right.
in a reasonable amount of time in the warm California sun. So to get rid of the meat and the guts and all the bits was difficult and costly and time. It took a lot of time. My family helped me. We're all a great team. We work together. We work through the night and we take care of stuff, but it was a lot of work. And I still have a skeleton sitting that's not finished being put back together. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you put it back together with?
Wire, metal rods,
I
and then
imagine
super
that.
fast glue, and holds a lot of the stuff together.
I use that stuff on everything.
Everything. I fixed a post and a gate with it. I fixed everything. I fixed aluminum pipes with it. I've done all kinds of stuff. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Walter Vargo. He's out of New York area, does a lot of bones, a lot of skeletons. He was an immense source of knowledge for me. One of the universities bought a skeleton from him, and he came over and assembled it. And when we got word of it, we dropped everything, canceled our 2 days, and went over and put together the skeleton. And we were the only two horseshoers. Chris and I were the only two horseshoers there. We're only two people there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Nobody wanted to see it be all assembled. So we got this fantastic clinic.
No kidding. Almost
All about the
one-on-one.
bones and all about the structures. So you want to reference bones and how to treat them, Walter Vargo was the guy.
Okay, and he's somewhere on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is there anything we haven't covered that you're passionate about in the anatomy side of things?
I think I nerded out pretty well on that one, didn't we?
One thing that came up just in your description of that, and you used the abbreviation, the suspensory apparatus of the distal
Phalanx.
phalanx. Okay. SADP.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard it as you were saying it. In the sense of balance, like say anterior, posterior, or medial lateral, what are things that you're looking for when you put a shoe on a horse? Or is it too...
A little harder to explain. SADP was actually discovered in Germany many, many years ago, and it's called the Hufenschling,
Okay.
right? And it's just been sort of overlooked for a long time. So it's not a new structure or new fan thing, but Dr. Pollitt found it, referenced it to collagen filament particle that comes from the distal phalanx out through the basement membrane, out to the secondary epidermal lamina cellular line, and holds on to the epidermal structure from there. And so on the entire parietal surface of the bone and around the palmar processes and up, even up along the bars, that structure is there. So it's holding up the entire bone within the hoof capsule from every aspect it can get a hold of it.
Okay.
So everywhere there's a secondary epidermal structure, or primary epidermal and secondary structure, you have an SADP filament holding something.
Okay.
So caudal to cranial or caudal to dorsal on a hoof capsule, it's about the orientation of the bone in that hoof capsule.
Right.
And it's easily reported or easily seen from the top down. So from the top down, whatever looks normal or whatever's in a line, and whenever there's an angle change of any sort, that's when that SADP is either lengthened or disconnected.
Okay.
And so from that, so you have to make a line, a mental line of alignment wherever your breakover is going to be from that outer line of normal all the way through whatever pathology is happening to the foot or whatever flare is happening to the foot. That's your line to the point of leverage you want to put on that bony structure.
Right. Now, in places where, I'm assuming in the case of a founder, that's an extreme case.
In founder, that's one of the indicators of on an X-ray, on a lateral view of an X-ray. Dr. Pollitt talks about a white line. So everybody talks about the wedge that happens, the founder distance or the angle, angle of rotation. But initially in an X-ray, if you look at the hoof wall and the bone orientation, where there's normal dermal layer, right past the dermal layer on an X-ray, there'll be a white opaque line on a normal foot. And that is the section where the SADP is actually going through and holding on to the secondary epidermal lamina, right?
Okay.
And so there's enough of them that they cause a shadow. They cause the radiographic image to have an anomaly like a bone or a ligament.
Right.
And so if that line is there, you can generally help the horse a lot better, a lot sooner, a lot faster. If that line is gone, then that hoof capsule is going to continue to let loose of that bone.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Now, in instances where, like, say, a flare
On a normal foot,
on a normal foot without founder.
then that is just disconnected horn. You have to remove that leverage,
Right.
align that load to your shoe or to your point of leverage on your shoe, and it should grow in normal.
That connection will continue.
That connection
down.
will repair and regrow and come down straight.
Okay.
It takes 18 to 24 months in a lot of cases. It takes time to make all this happen
Mm-hmm.
because the structures have to grow out. It's like a ligament tear, so it takes a lot of time to heal and then connect and grow back down.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I say that kind of easily because that's the theory I'm working on right now.
Right.
So that's my theory about it. So I'm observing. I'm making this happen. I'm doing studies on my own about it, and I'm observing and watching and waiting
Right. Cool.
to see a result.
Yeah.
I don't work on many foundered horses at all.
Okay.
I don't work in a lot of clinics or at all. I work on sport horses doing sport stuff.
Right.
I work on horses doing things. I don't want to work on the horses going the other way.
Right. Unfortunately, with me, I've got some horses where what's been done to them has caused founder or whatever.
Right. And in those cases, I got them too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I didn't.
He didn't seek them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
They found you.
They ended up with us.
Right.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we do our damnedest to figure out how to help them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's excruciating and painful, as we both know. So it's tough to watch.
For sure.
Yeah. As a horse
Especially-
lover,
Yeah.
a horse appreciator, it's tough to watch.
Especially if it's one that you've been working on for
Right.
a while and built a relationship with. So I guess we should backtrack a bit and just, you were this young kid that wanted to learn. How did you eventually decide that farriery was the way to go?
Good question. I trained horses. I broke horses. I grew up with horses. I was supposed to be a rider or a vet, or I don't know what their imagination was for me. But as I grew up, we as a family weren't able to hold on to our ranch.
Oh, okay.
So as I got into my early teens, I had to find something else to do. So I adventured out into the working world and did industrial work and motorcycle racing and all kinds of other things. And then as time went on, my mom, I had a person, she still held onto the ranch as long as she could. So at a point, she had a horse drop on our place, and it was wild and dangerous, and nobody wanted to touch it or feed it. She needed me to come get it and get it the hell out of there. And so I'm somewhere in the middle of Idaho, somewhere welding something of some structure. And I'm like, Mom, I can't do that. So you can't tell your mom no. So I went. And that horse changed the course of my life in a way. He was dangerous. He was pissed off. He was really dangerous. But I managed to eventually ride him, catch him and ride him and handle him and take care of him. And he sort of brought me back to horses.
Mm.
So from there, we did disperse the ranch, and I took whatever horses I had left, and I took a job on a ranch, cattle ranch up in the high mountains, kind of away from everybody. And so on that ranch, the old guys that ran it used to shoe their own horses when they was kids or whenever they had to when they were farming with them. So in the winters, they would have whoever pull shoes. So I was the young guy, so I got the job. And oftentimes when the shoer wouldn't show up because we're fairly remote, we'd have to tack shoes back on, and I got that job. A couple of the family members went to shoeing schools. They hated it. They didn't want to shoe horses, or for whatever reason, or they just wanted to kind of shoe on their own pace. And I saw them doing it. I worked with them. It seemed like a really cool thing because I was already good with metal. So,
Right.
The old man that ran the ranch, he liked me, so he fired me so that I could get JTPA money to go to school. So he fired my ass, and I went to Oklahoma Farrier College, Bud Beeston School, back in the day.
Okay.
And I spent a fair amount of time there shoeing, and then I went back to the ranch and started my career as a horse shoer.
Okay.
From my experience with horses, that got me into other places like reining horse barns and cutting horse barns and eventually jumper barns. And somewhere along the line, I met Dr. Butler. I was always in search of more information. I happened to be just at the supply store, and he was there because he was teaching a lecture that afternoon or something like that. And I thought, damn, I'll listen to this old boy. Okay, fine, great. And so he started a one-on-one program. And so I bought into that. Meanwhile, all this stuff, I've got a wife and a kid and a bunch of other stuff going on too. So I needed to make money. and I needed to get better and get better clients. And I knew how to do that by being better and more knowledgeable and more trustworthy. So Dr. Butler was willing to work with me, so I worked with him as much as I possibly could. And that set me up for certifications and just continuing educations. And it just spirals out of control ever since. When I was a kid, I dreamed about riding in the Olympics. So now, sort of as a grown-up, I dream of shoeing at the Olympics. So
Cool. I'm glad I asked that question.
that was a short version.
This portion of the podcast is called the Stratum Tectorium. These are the short answer, surface stuff questions, but it's okay if the guest wants to go deeper. Enjoy. So what's your favorite book?
Currently, Paula's newest book that's out.
Okay. Favorite brand of nails?
I'm going to say Mustad MX55.
Oh, Hank has just been blown away. Maybe Hank should cover his ears for the remainder of these questions.
They're not made in China. I like them. Just saying. He's not going to like a lot of these answers because we're on opposite sides of some of the marketing and manufacturing sections of this other part of the stuff. So
Okay. What shoe sizes do you generally have to stock the most of?
double aught to 4.
Okay. Pretty much the same answer. Yeah. Well, you do kind of cover a lot of bases with the types of horses you do.
I'll shoe everything.
Yeah.
Daylight, dark, I'll shoe it. I'm like Hank. I'll shoe. I'll work. I like to work.
Yeah. Favorite make of rasp?
The new Workman wide 14-inch rasp.
Oh, really? I have not heard of that one.
I run through 2 cases of them, and I really like them.
Just don't look in this direction.
I know.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just don't make eye
feel
contact.
I can feel it. The tension. I'm not sleeping tonight.
Well, you're not going to get much anyways. Do you have a dream farrier rig?
I have lots of Dream Farrier rigs, so I haven't built them yet. I got one to build or a couple to build.
Oh, okay. Do you usually build your own?
I put them together in pieces. So my last one was a bay horse body that was just a shell, and I did all the install on the interior.
Oh, cool.
It took me 2 years.
Well,
But I like that one.
yeah, that's exactly the way you want it, right?
Yeah, but I had to do a lot of design work myself
Yeah.
to make it work for me.
Right.
So I haven't figured out if I like the short body, walk around body on a truck, or if I like the 8-foot body. So the next one will be an 8-foot body on a single cab truck.
Okay.
In the similar spectrum, a shell, and I'll design the interior.
Right. They must love you. That must make it easier for them.
They probably hate me because I don't spend any money with them.
Oh, right, that's
I buy the cheapest damn thing I can buy from them, and then I put everything else in it.
Right.
I manufacture it myself.
You'll even swirl it yourself?
I'll just skin it.
Yeah, okay. Favorite rounding hammer?
Jacob Manning. I try my best to buy all my tools now from my friends.
Yeah.
So all my hoof knives are from friends of mine. All my my driving hammers, anything that I use on a daily basis, I try to buy it from someone who's manufacturing it that I know.
Yeah.
It may cost a little bit more money, but I guarantee you they're quality product.
Yep. Well worth it. Favorite type of bar stock to work with?
My ultimate favorite is concave.
Yeah.
Even though I don't use much of it anymore, yeah. I think I can make a very nice concave shoe.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Okay. Favorite pastime after work?
Right now, I ride a one-wheel board. I bought it a month ago, and I put almost 150 miles on it. So
Holy jeez.
I like that thing. It's fun.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good time.
He is not an amateur at this. What's the next thing on your bucket list?
It's shoeing at the Olympics.
Right. Favorite brand of keg shoe?
Workman quarter wide.
Workman quarter wide?
Yep.
I don't know that particular line.
Workman used to produce the Delta wide keg,
Okay.
and Delta left that contract.
Oh,
So
okay.
Workman continues to make it. They call it now the quarter wide.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it's the same,
Right.
maybe a little improved.
Okay. Ideal number of horses to shoe all around in one day?
It's a ideal number of horses to shoe. I would say 1, and I'd say for $1,500.
Perfect. Favorite anvil?
Scott anvils. I get the ones with the turning cams.
Yep.
I like the others as well, but I shoe horses for a living, so cams it is. I use all the advantages and modern amenities we have now.
Favorite inspirational quote?
Life is tough, and it's even tougher if you're stupid. John Wayne. Right? Windage and elevation, Mrs. Johnson. That's another one.
Do you have a Farrier Terrier?
No dogs. Family has dogs. The wife has dogs, but I don't take one in the truck.
Okay. If you're stumped on a case or need backup, you already kind of
I reference all my library. And then I call a friend or I call whoever was part of that reference that I couldn't quite understand. So Sarah Logie is my call person.
Okay.
If I had to call somebody, she's the smartest lady I know.
Yeah. She's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite shoe or package for a mystery lameness?
Equilibrium style. A Warrior Special shoe is an equilibrium style, so that goes on most of my horses. So and throw a bar shoe in it.
Right.
If it's a mystery.
Okay.
Heel elevation, caudal support, that sort of stuff.
Gotcha.
Most mysteries are the sole is too thin and there's sole pressure or there's ground reaction pressure or something of that nature. It's just protect it and grow it out and see how it looks after that shoe job.
Right. What do you use as your planner?
Started Google Calendar last year.
And you stuck with it?
And I'm sticking with it.
I tried. I could not do it.
It's upsetting me a little bit when I try to add in new people on the same visit.
Right.
It doesn't keep them going.
Oh, right.
But I figured out how to make that happen. So I'm good.
Oh, cool.
I resisted for a long time about that. So I always had a weekly, daily planner that I don't remember the name of it, Farrier Forms.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one I used forever.
Okay.
And I still carry one for a backup.
Okay. Favorite method of soothing aches and pains?
Stretching and yoga.
Favorite drink?
Root beer, water.
Favorite genre of music?
Mostly like all of it, but reggae. Current favorites are Coulter Wall and Corblund.
Okay.
I like everything else. I'll listen to most everything else, as long as it ain't a love song or reggae.
Oh, okay. Do you work out?
Yes,
okay.
But it's that one wheel board.
Right.
And I bought it with the intention of it being a workout.
Oh, cool.
It's not just fun, it's a workout.
Right. What would you have been if not a farrier?
No idea. Life took me in this direction, so I don't know what else I would have done.
Mm-hmm.
Because of horses and everything else, I really like what I do, but if other things were as fulfilling, I would do it.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. People think I should be a vet or something of that nature. Maybe that would have worked for me too. Don't know.
Right. Okay. And then the COVID question, if you were stuck in a shop with somebody for a month, who would you want it to be?
Bob's my favorite guy in that. So yeah, Bob Marshall.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you.
It's a late night for you guys.
Thanks for having me.
And it'll be a short one, but I really appreciate you guys doing this.
Perfect.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to hearing about it.
As I mentioned in the previous podcast, I wanted to introduce a new segment called the Good On Ya portion of the program. This is where folks who go above and beyond for other farriers or other horses in their care just get a little shout out. The first person to send in a recommendation was Chad Diamond, and he nominated Alan Heffelbauer. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, CF. He's his mentor and takes on all of the broken and laminitic horses no one will touch. He has a big heart and will work himself to death if it means another horse gets helped. I asked Chad for a few more words about his mentor, and this is what he sent me. Alan works out of Wagram, North Carolina. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, too. A recent case he's been working on is a retired endurance horse that completely tore its DDFT. And in 6 months, the horse has regrown it by 85%. Alan attended shoeing school in North Carolina. It was Danny Ward's school, and has been a professional farrier for over 20 years. Chad also nominated Travis Burns. In his words, because he always answers my dumb questions. Now, this isn't the first time that I've heard that Travis is a very approachable guy and does help out a lot of folks who reach out to him. So, to both of those gentlemen, good on ya. I look forward to hearing more nominations for this segment. Before I let you go, I wanted to say a few words about an upcoming webinar by Dr. Simon Curtis. Yes, he is back at it again, and this particular webinar is about clubfoot in young and old horses, with the speakers Hans Castilians and Simon Curtis. The event takes place on Saturday, October 1st, and you can book early with a discount code, MULLINS, my last name, to get a discount on the tickets. There is a small number of early bird tickets available, so book those soon. As usual, a ticket will get you full access to the live interactive webinar, a full video recording of the webinar afterwards, your questions answered in an open Q&A, a certificate of attendance for CPD or CE points, and a PDF of studies and papers and key takeaways. Here are a few words about this particular webinar. At some point, everyone involved in hoof care is confronted by a club-footed horse. Being able to diagnose it quickly and pursue a successful course of action is essential knowledge. If you work on young stock, you may have the chance to prevent and/or cure clubfoot. If you only deal with mature horses, then any club-footed equine in your care needs considered treatment. From 3-month-old to 20-year-old, club-footed horses can be helped. As I'm sure you've heard me say several times before, I have found these webinars incredibly helpful in my day-to-day work. I hope you do too. So, until next time, take care of yourselves and each other out there. We'll talk soon.